When did a funeral go terribly wrong? My neighbor Anna knocked on my door one morning looking desperate. She offered me $200 to attend her aunt's funeral that afternoon and pretend to be a grieving friend. Apparently appearances really mattered to their family, and an empty funeral would bring shame upon the whole bloodline or whatever. She gave me a brief bio of her aunt to memorize, and emphasized that at no point should I mention and definitely not interact with her aunt's son, Dylan. He'd been unstable since his mother died. Apparently Dylan had been questioned by police about the death, but they couldn't prove anything. I needed the money and figured I could sit in a church for an hour, so that wasn't enough to scare me away. But then I arrived at the funeral home. It was almost empty. Dylan sat alone in the second row, rocking slightly back and forth while staring at his mother's casket. He was younger than I expected, maybe 25, wearing a suit that didn't fit right and muttering something under his breath. When I signed the guest book with the fake name Anna gave me, Dylan's head snapped around to watch me write. My hand started shaking as I finished the signature, and I chose a seat near the back, close to the exit. During the opening prayers, Dylan kept turning to look at each attendee, studying faces like he was memorizing them. The priest seemed nervous and rushed through the initial remarks, glancing at Dylan between sentences. When it came time for family to speak, Dylan stood up before anyone else could move, his chair scraping loud against the floor. He walked to the podium slowly, running his hand along his mother's casket as he passed. His eulogy started normal enough, talking about his mother's garden and her love of birds, but then he said she would still be here if certain people hadn't abandoned her. Anna's family shifted uncomfortably as Dylan's voice got louder. Everyone in this room knows what they did, how they left her to suffer alone while they lived their perfect lives. He started pointing at specific relatives, naming their sins. Aunt Anna, who wouldn't lend her money for medicine. Uncle Robert, who called her a burden. Cousin Sarah, who blocked her phone calls. My stomach dropped as I realized this wasn't grief, but rage, and I started calculating how fast I could reach the door. The priest tried to intervene, but Dylan grabbed the podium with both hands and kept going, his voice getting more unhinged. She begged all of you for help, and you let her die alone in that house, probably grateful she was finally gone. Someone's baby started crying, and Dylan screamed, "Shut up!" so loud the stained glass windows seemed to shake. The mother rushed out with the child while Dylan watched, then said, "That's right, leave, just like you all left her." I wanted to follow her so badly, but knew moving would draw his attention to me. Anna was typing furiously on her phone, probably texting someone to call security, while Dylan pulled out a stack of papers from his jacket. I have here every email, every text, every voicemail she left begging for help that you all ignored. He started reading them out loud, his mother's desperate words echoing in the church, while relatives began standing to leave. But Dylan stepped down from the podium and stood in the center aisle, blocking the path. My legs tensed, ready to run, but I was trapped in the middle of the pew, with no way out, except past him. "Nobody leaves until I'm finished," he said, reaching into his jacket again. The priest said something about calling the police, and Dylan laughed, this broken sound that made everyone freeze. "Go ahead, call them. They should know what really happened anyway." He walked over to the casket and put both hands on it, looking at each of us in turn. "You all culled her with your neglect, but one of you did more than that, didn't you?" When his eyes landed on me, I tried to look confused rather than terrified, remembering I was supposed to be a grieving friend. An old woman tried to edge toward the side door, but Dylan moved faster than seemed possible, slamming it shut and turning the lock. "My mother didn't just die," he said, his voice dropping to almost a whisper that was somehow worse than the screaming.